Hello and welcome to We Are Brooklyn Park. I'm your host, Jay Strobel, City Manager in Brooklyn Park. Our guest today is Dr. Rolando Garcia, who joined North Hennepin Community College on July 1st, 2020 as the new president. Dr. Garcia is a compassionate leader with an accomplished record of promoting diversity and championing underserved students through visionary and transformational leadership. He most recently served as president of Broward College's South Campus and also as the vice provost of academic resources since 2015. Welcome, Dr. Garcia.
Thank you, Jay. It's great to be here.
Well, I see you moved to Minnesota in the summertime from Florida. That's probably a smart move.
Probably the smartest move next to marrying my wife, yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I was born 1975. So for those of you keeping track out there, I am 45 years old. I was born to Cuban exiles. So my parents immigrated here in the late 60s and settled in Miami. And that's where I grew up. I attended school down there, graduated from high school at Hialeah High, went on to the University of Miami for my undergrad, a school I solely picked based on the football program. Probably not the way you want to pick a college, and certainly in hindsight, I should have done something different, but it was a great experience being there. After graduating from the University of Miami, I ended up not getting into medical school, and so I had to find my way in the world, and ultimately led me to Miami-Dade College, where I started working, helping students much like myself who had immigrated to the country and were trying to learn the system. And I fell in love with the community college, and that's where I've been now since 2002, working in the community college space. And I would not trade that for the world. I had an opportunity to work at Miami-Dade College for close to 10 years in different roles. I had the opportunity to go to Northern Virginia Community College, where I was the Dean of Learning Technology Resources up there for about 3 years until my son was born. That was a very pleasant surprise. And for all of you out there, just remember, Virginia is for lovers, and it's absolutely true, so be careful when you drink the water. And shortly after he was born, it was a little bit challenging being up there by ourselves, so we returned back home to be closer to family. And I started at Broward College. I was the Dean of Academic Resources and Assessment at the South Campus, and within a year, my supervisor at the time, who was the campus president, took a position elsewhere, and I became the interim president. And then after a national search, I became the campus president. Over the last 5 years or so, there were multiple changes in our structure. And so I ended up being both a campus president and also the vice provost for academic resources, which is tutoring, testing, libraries, all those services for students. And then when I saw the opportunity to come up here to North Hennepin Community College, I applied, and I was fortunate to be selected as the sixth president of North Hennepin.
Yeah, I had the good fortune of being on the committee that was involved in part of the selection process. I was one of the community representatives, and I remember reading all the background materials on you, and especially your cover letter and the story about your family, and about your parents, and some of the sacrifices they made. As you said, they were Cuban exiles in the 60s and came to the United States, and some of the sacrifices they made for you. So I don't know if anything else you want to share about kind of what your parents' journey and sort of meant to you in your life, and kind of how you passed that on.
Sure, absolutely. So my parents never went beyond first grade as far as an education. My father started working very early as he was 9 years old. He was helping in the field. He came from a rural part of Cuba. And my mom, for various reasons, didn't go to school. And so together they might have maybe a first grade education. And so when you talk about growing up here and not having them necessarily to lean on and look for guidance as far as school, that was a challenge. But what they did was that they always encouraged me to go seek an education. My dad was a butcher, and that's really how he put my brother and I through school. And I saw the work ethic. I mean, every day he would be up at 4 a.m. in the morning, and he'd come home at 5 in the evening. And literally the man never took a day off from work. He was very hardworking. So I got a chance to see that work ethic. but they always wanted me to go to school as a way to bring our family up. And going through that struggle and seeing it really motivated me to do exactly what they told me to do, which is go to school. They were sacrificing a lot for me, and the least I could do is take their advice, and I did. And fortunately, I was a good student, and I was able to go to the University of Miami on scholarship, academic scholarships. But it really could have been a big struggle. What they didn't do is they didn't take anything off the table. In other words, there was no domestic violence, no drug abuse, none of those issues that a lot of the students may face, or food insecurity, any of those things. I didn't have that. And so when I think of our students and the challenges that they face, they have the will of giants. I mean, just to show up at our door and to come and seek an education. So that motivates me every day to get out and do what I do to try and bring the resources that they need to be successful.
Incredible story about your parents and about that upbringing, and how you've sort of carried that forward in terms of some of your values and how you can help with some of the students that along the way. Yeah. So in hindsight, you talked about your original aspiration was medical school.
Yep.
So as you reflect back, do you think, at the end of the day, getting into higher education was probably the right path?
Yeah, it's something that I've thought about throughout my life, and what would have happened, had I been able to get into medical school. And ultimately, it comes to, I had the grades, and I applied 2 times, two cycles for medical school. Ultimately, I didn't continue that process because I felt it was bad that my parents were bankrolling my existence, and here I am sitting with an $80,000 education. And so ultimately I felt the pressure to go and find work and find an alternative path. But I had a friend, an undergrad friend of mine, that she applied 5 times and she was finally able to get in. She went on to become a doctor. And so when I look at it, it's a matter of having the will and the opportunity. And so fortunately, she had that. I felt the need to get into the workforce at that point. But I've always had an appreciation for the sciences and the math, because obviously, if you're pre-med, you're going to be doing a lot of those courses. And so when it comes to STEM and that field, it's something that I feel very close to. And certainly every time I hear somebody talk to me about, I want to go to medical school, I want to talk to those students and let them know this is what you need to know in the process, and get them ready, because it is a very rigorous process to get in.
Right.
Yeah.
Clearly in this role, you can impact students in a really impactful way, just as a doctor could impact patients.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because at some point you realize, how else can I give back? And once I got into education, I started working with populations of students who really didn't know where to start. Because, you imagine some of these folks just immigrated to this country. They may not even have paperwork to their transcripts or anything of that nature. And so they're starting from scratch. And in some cases, they might have been doctors. They might have been lawyers. They could have had a profession. And to come to another country and rebuild your whole life from scratch, that takes a great deal of willpower and fortitude. And so working with those students and helping them really was a way to say, okay, well, I can still be a meaningful contributor to this world and my community.
Yeah, well, it's important for people in your role to have kind of those types of values and inspirations of wanting to give back to the community,
Absolutely.
trying to help people on whatever path that they're on to be successful. Right. So obviously being in higher education and being the president of North Hennepin, a lot of stress in the current job and in previous roles you've had. So what are ways that I know a little bit about yourself, but what are ways that you sort of like to sort of wind down?
Sure. So things that I like to do to help me get my mind cleared up. I do play video games. That's something I do with my son and my brother. My brother's obviously back home in Miami, so we'll play games online. I also like to play sports. At this point in my life, I'm pretty much sticking to tennis. That's something that I enjoy. But I grew up playing everything. I played basketball, I played baseball, you name it. In South Florida, really, you could play every sport year round, except hockey. That really wasn't the case until we got the Panthers. But yeah, I'm a big sports fan. I love watching sports and playing video games. That's what I do.
So a couple things. So we're going to have to get out on the tennis court. I know we've talked about it
Absolutely.
a couple times before, so we'll have to do that before it gets before November hits when it gets too cold. The second thing is that we will, in terms of hockey, if you ever want to play hockey, we've got a couple rinks here in the city where you can play some hockey.
Absolutely. I've walked through your facility, and you have two amazing ice rinks here. I know I want to bring my son so he can take a look at it and get him excited. I know he's going to love it up here. That's something he's looking forward to. He's never seen snow.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and I know you're a Marlins fan, so you can have a National League team. You can root for the Marlins, but
Right.
American League, it's going to have to be the Twins.
Sure,
Unless
absolutely.
you already have allegiance to a different team.
Right, any team but the Yankees, basically.
There you go.
Now, living in South Florida, we had a great deal of Yankee and Mets fans. A lot of New Yorkers retire and move to South Florida. So usually when either of those teams were in town, because sometimes they do the interleague games, I mean, the stadium was full of opposing fans. It was really a home game for them. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're really annoying fans too.
No comment.
So tell us what attracted you to North Hennepin Community College, to Brooklyn Park. What was it about the college, about the community that you thought, this is the right fit for me? Because literally, you could apply for any position around the country. But what was it about this opportunity?
Well, one of the first things that anybody tells me when I talk about the Twin Cities is, it's cold up there, right? And so it always starts with that. But in reality, I don't think they understand the amazing diversity that you can find, and particularly right around Brooklyn Park. I know in the process when I came to the campus and I had a chance to tour, and I saw the students, it really looked like the UN. I mean, there were just students from all nationalities and cultures, and it was just an amazing process to see that. And learning more about the area, certainly U.S. News and World Report reported the Twin Cities as one of the top places to live in the country back in, I believe it was 2018 or 2019. And absolutely, you have all the amenities somebody would want if they're going to live somewhere. And so I was excited about the opportunity, and I was fortunate to go through the process and be selected. And I couldn't be happier being up here. I mean, obviously moving in the summer helps with that. I'm fully aware winter will be cold. Everyone has gone out of their way to explain it to me, and so I am fully aware. But millions of people figure out how to live with it, and not just live with it, thrive in it.
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at this as a long-term thing, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of benefits to being up here, too.
That's the right mindset to take. And I know that there's a bit of a story for your trip from South Florida to Minnesota that involves an RV.
Oh, no. Why are we talking about that? Yeah, so you can imagine moving cross country is already difficult enough as it is.
Yeah.
But trying to move cross country during a pandemic is even more difficult. And so in an effort to try and figure out how we would get here safely and avoid airports and hotels, my wife and I brainstormed the idea of we'll take an RV. Now, I've never RV'd before. I've never gone camping before. I've never driven a truck before. So sure, why not do that for 18? Let's just do it all for 1,800 miles. And then on top of that, you have different levels of lockdown.
Right.
Depending on what state you drive through. And it was just, it was a challenging experience because we had to also pack our house while homeschooling our son.
Yeah.
And trying to get quotes. I mean, we rented our apartment up here sight unseen. So a lot of things that you would normally never do if you're going to execute something properly, we really didn't have a choice but to do. And the RV was one. And learning to drive that thing on the fly, and much less going through mountains. I mean, our route took us through the Blue Ridge Mountains in Georgia, going through Tennessee, and and really I was white knuckling it all the way through that area because obviously when you're driving a truck you should like shift down gears. Well, I didn't know that, not until I read it after we got through that part. I should have done my homework, but it was amazing. It was a challenge. I mean, RVing I would think is fun if you're not breaking down and setting up every day.
Yeah.
So if you go and you set up for like maybe a week or so, you're good. But if you're constantly moving every single day and you're having to set up and take down the RV, it gets old fast.
It's a lot of work.
It is. And then my poor dogs had no idea what was going on. And so I would break and the dog would go flying, and it was because you can hook everything down and tie it down, but the dogs are a completely other scenario. So
Right.
it was quite the experience. But I can tell you, once we arrived here in this area, I was just so happy. And honestly, it's gotten better every day since I dropped off the RV back at the company.
It's amazing, honestly, that a person with a regular driver's license can rent one of those things because they're
They're huge. I had a 26 footer.
Yeah, I mean that's enormous. So
Right,
it's
and I drive a small sedan, so it's not even close to being the same.
No, yeah, not even remotely close.
Yeah.
So what is that? What does that first 100 days look like for you as president? I know coming in summertime, with COVID, in traditional way, you would probably come onto campus. There'd be a big welcome. There'd be students all over the place. You'd get a real vibe. You'd be able to connect with students every day. And how are things going? Just to help you learn. But what does that process look like for you?
Oh, right. And so, you described it perfectly, which is normally you come onto the campus, you meet with different constituents. In fact, the meeting process would have happened the moment that I was identified as the president. So I would have already flown up here probably a few times to meet with folks. And then when I would have arrived, we would have had more time to get together. So we're figuring it out in the pandemic, and it's a lot like everybody else, Zooms. So we're doing Zoom meetings. Even with my executive team, we've been together only a handful of times, and the rest of the time is through Zoom, and just trying to get familiar with one another, learn what's important. For me, the 100 days is going to be a lot of learning, listening to folks, learning about the history of the institution, the culture, and finding opportunities where I can help. Where can I serve the institution the best? And it's not just the internal part of the institution. Obviously, there are external partners as well. And so obviously the city is a fantastic partner, but we also have folks associated through the foundation and other businesses that I need to get to know in the next 100 days or so, just to get those relationships flowing again.
Yep. Yeah. I know I've got a couple assignments I need to follow up on
Absolutely.
after my vacation to make some connections for you as part of your onboarding process. And then one of the big projects I know that we've been in partnership with the city and the college recently has been the Center for Innovation in the Arts project. What are your thoughts about that project and what it could potentially mean for the college?
It was interesting when I was going through the interview process, and I saw this project as something that was being launched and was being worked on. That excited me. I think during the interview process, I said, I'm 1,700 miles away, and this project excites me. It has the potential to completely activate that whole part of the city with world-class entertainment venues, amazing educational opportunities for students here in the Twin Cities. The partnership with Metro State, with the Osseo School District, and North Hennepin Community College can really make a big difference in getting students from our area, a very culturally diverse area, into the arts. And that's an amazing pipeline for that talent. And then when you think of the world-class entertainment and everything else that can come with it, obviously we're going to have retail space, there will be shops and venues, and obviously if we can also get the train line there, sooner rather than later, that would be fantastic. So when I look at the future, I think it's very bright, and it's an amazing project for us to work on.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I mean, it seems like it'd be a great opportunity for the college and the community, and to try to figure out how to best program in that thing. 365 days a week, probably 20 hours a day.
Yeah.
Probably 6 a.m. to 10 or 11 at night. And for people of every age.
Absolutely.
So not only the college age students, but also adults that might want to just, engage in some level of art coursework or
Correct.
classwork, or to watch something. And then for our young ones in the community, of trying to expose them to. And it seems to me that a lot of professions nowadays, even if somebody doesn't want to major in art, that just so that some of those types of skills or the thinking or the design, if you're an engineer, that type of art or design mindset is probably helpful if you're an engineer, or if you're in other professions as well. So
Right. I mean, there's strong relationships between math and the arts, and so absolutely, there's plenty for everyone. And the truth is, we want to put community back in the heart of the community college. And so, what you're going to see from North Hennepin is we will be the community's college, and we will be working to bring everyone, and we want to be inclusive of everybody. Brooklyn Park, Brooklyn Center, and this whole Northwest metro area.
yeah, I love that. Put the community back in the community college.
Yeah.
So what is that in a practical sense? What does that look? Obviously you're still learning how things are done today at North Hennepin Community College. But what are some of the things that you could think about when you say putting the community back into the community college?
Sure. So something that I can think of right now is when I look at the state of social justice or social injustice, however you want to look at it through that lens. So I think there's an opportunity for us to bring the community together to discuss the state of racial equity in our city and in our community. And so I think the college can play a leading role in having those conversations. Certainly we can have speakers, we can bring the community onto the campus, we can do racial healing circles. That's something that we're looking to bring out to the community. And so when I talk about community, that's just one example of programming that we can do. In the arts, obviously we can put on shows, we can attract folks to be on the campus, to learn about the college, and also how we can provide programming that is of interest to the community. Right? I believe early on in the history of North Hennepin, the saying was "in and of the community." Well, I want to bring us back to those roots where we are in and of the community, and we are putting the community back in community college.
Yeah, well, that's a really exciting vision to think about and to see that come about.
Yeah.
Some students have barriers in terms of starting into college and then sort of continuing, whether it's transportation barriers, financial barriers, time, or other issues,
Right.
other life issues going on. What are some of the successful ways that you've seen colleges around the country sort of address some of those barriers that exist?
Sure. The number one way is really partnering with other nonprofits to work on the space. So I can give you an example. At my prior institution, we worked with a nonprofit that looked at education and financial literacy, providing a two-generation approach, working with families. So looking at helping the parents gain skills for employability and learning the language, because a lot of the folks were immigrants, while working with the students in after school care to provide them with tutoring and additional support. So you would work together on the family unit with the ideas that both will go off to college, both will have opportunities for increased employment, and then that brings up the family unit together, right? And so I think that's something that that we can look at, but certainly to tackle other issues like the food insecurity, you work with food banks. If there are folks who have issues with immigration, we work with nonprofit lawyers and folks that will help students in those situations as well. And we, once again, this was something that we've done successfully at other institutions, and I think it's something that can be done here. So for me, it's important to learn who are the nonprofits in the area and how can we work together to meet the needs of our students.
It seems like that those are some of those key partners to help overcome some of those life challenges. I know recently there was a study done by the Brooklyn Bridge Alliance for Youth, working with North Hennepin Community College, Hennepin Technical College, about why students start and then for whatever reason they're not able to continue on until completion, and in addressing some of those barriers.
Right. I mean, there's issues that are financial. Some of them are family. There's somebody that they need to take care of as well. And so, there are partners out there that can help with those services. It's just making sure that we make the connections. And for our students, much like we're finding out with K-12, the community college is more than just a place that you go for education. Really, it's an area that connects you to all kinds of services.
So with COVID, how has that impacted how the professors teach? How has that impacted your enrollment numbers? Obviously with probably economy going in the wrong direction where there's clearly more people unemployed, or is this leading to more people turning to college as maybe potentially an opportunity, a time, a moment to get additional skills?
See, normally in that cycle, if it wasn't a pandemic, that would be the case. You would see folks returning to college when the economy takes a downturn. But in this case, it is so widespread across multiple sectors that really there's not an opportunity for them to change careers because multiple sectors are just impacted across the board.
Got it.
And so while we would hope that they would return, what we're noticing for the fall is right now our enrollment is a little bit lower than what we projected. Yet in summer, our enrollment was higher by 2 percentage points higher than what we had expected. So what we think we're seeing is some of the students who would have gone to a university instead decide to stay local and take courses with us. And the courses are being delivered predominantly online. Now, there are some courses that you have no choice but to offer in a class environment. Certainly you want your nurses and you want your police folks in public safety doing hands-on work. And so those courses are still ongoing, obviously with social distancing and taking appropriate safe protocols. But all the other courses that can be delivered online are being delivered online. Same thing with our services. So students continue to receive a lot of the same services that they would get in person online as well. Now, we do have food insecurity issues with some of our students, and for those students, we are still making the pantry available, and we are even looking at possibly making deliveries for some of those students as well. But that's something we would work out and arrange. Yeah, so I mean the challenges are vast, and so everybody's had to pivot quickly and find those solutions. And much like all the other institutions around the country, we've had to adjust on the fly.
As you think about sort of a year from now or 2 years from now, hopefully post-pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that this is going to change the way that we do instruction permanently? Do you think that in the future there'll be a sort of a combination of maybe 75% of classes will be all in person, but 25% might sort of permanently be an option to do online from North Hennepin? Or maybe it was that way before, I'm not sure.
Right, and I don't know if it was that way before North Hennepin. I certainly need to do a little bit more research on that. But will it impact the future? Yes, I think it will. But I don't think it's because folks are going to be jumping to take more classes online. I think if anything, folks have seen the value of being around people and the exchange that takes place in a classroom.
Okay.
Right. I mean, even though you can design courses and you get very good interaction, I think you're going to find folks immediately after the pandemic that are going to want to be back together with folks. I mean, as it is, you see it now across the country. Folks can't wait to get back with people.
Yeah.
And so I think you'll see the same folks who want to be back on campus. But what is fantastic is that it's given us an opportunity to refine the courses that we have and to develop them for an online, so that we do have that option for folks that for scheduling purposes can't make it to the campus. There will always be folks who need to have that option to take the course online, but now because we've been so invested in changing our delivery mode, you'll see the quality of the instruction improve.
Because of this opportunity.
Right, to actually really focus on the materials and build those courses for that medium.
Yeah.
Right, the first semester across the country, I can tell you a lot of it was shifting and moving courses very quickly. But now we're talking, now you've had 2 or 3 semesters, and so you start refining those courses and improving the delivery of it. So the good news for students is if you are going to take an online course in the fall or the spring, it is vastly improved from where it was in the previous spring.
Yeah.
The COVID spring.
Have there been any other sort of silver linings like that?
Not much that I
No.
not much that I can see. But as far as one, I think that's one where you've seen that opportunity to really focus on improving the quality of online course delivery, and that's nationally. Because if you build a good online course, you can get some really good deep learning out of the course, and not have any questions whether it's anywhere near as good as a face-to-face course. And so just having that opportunity to really do quality assurance and look at the data and then refine the course and tweak it is fantastic. That's something that we want to be doing also for our face-to-face courses.
Yep.
And should be doing on a continual basis, but it really gives the opportunity to home in on the online courses.
What have been some of the biggest challenges for community colleges across the country or colleges across the country that the COVID have presented?
And see, it's interesting because the business models for colleges and universities are different. So if you are a university that you have students living in dorms, that's a whole different model than what a community college, which is predominantly a commuter school, has. And so for us, the challenge really has been taking students from different backgrounds and different levels of technology access and needs and trying to pivot. And that's not just the students, I mean, faculty as well, and getting everybody to swing over to this new online delivery medium. And so a lot of it has been professional development for faculty in terms of how to deliver the courses, instructional designers to migrate content over and working with the faculty in doing that. And then for students, making sure that they have laptops, that they have hotspots, that they have ways to get the resources they need to be able to take those courses. For some students, it is overwhelming. And so we've also noticed that we needed more advising, more counseling to work with these students and nudge them along and check in with them, right?
Yeah.
And to keep them engaged.
So you mentioned technology. One of the things that I think COVID has really highlighted is, I think historically you think about the digital divide, you think of
Absolutely.
rural areas and urban areas, and the rural areas aren't served as well by the digital, or people don't have access in the same way. One of the things I know that we've been finding out through the K-12 system and through the colleges is that not everybody has the same type of access from home. Either they can't, they don't have it because of financial means, or the access that they do have, the bandwidth is slower than is necessary to stream the content that they need to stream. How has the college seen that, and are there different ways to try to address that?
Yes, and absolutely we have seen it, and I know colleges around the country have seen it. And when you look at the divide, it's along racial and financial lines, poverty, and just like healthcare, right? When you look at COVID and who's impacted the most, you see it. And technology is a lot the same, which is those folks don't have access to high-speed internet. Even if they do have access, they may not have the technology to get online. And if you do have a computer, you may not have the skills necessary to use the application you need for college, right? That's another part, because, I mean, it's not just using your cell phone. I mean, students will try and do their homework off the cell phones, but it is difficult without a computer or a printer to do work. Students still like to print out materials, and we've run into that at our college. A lot of folks want to come to our open computer lab to print.
Just to print.
And so
are they allowed to the computer lab?
we do have a computer lab. We have ours, but obviously it's for students only. So, but they can come in if necessary and use a computer on campus. We also have we extend our hotspots into the parking lots. So if somebody needs to come with a laptop, they can get onto our network and work out of the car if they need to, when we're not open, because libraries are also closed.
Right.
And so a lot of folks just need access to the internet.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of challenges, and we we don't see it every day.
Yeah.
And this has really brought to light a lot of the difficulties for folks.
Yeah, well, and that goes back to sort of working with some of the nonprofits and other
Yeah.
folks to help address some of those
Mm-hmm.
barriers that exist for many of the college students today. If we were to sit here a year from now, or 2 years from now, what do you think? Do you have any initial ideas of kind of what are some of those initial areas of focus you might bring to the college? I know that's a little bit of an unfair question because you've only been here for 27 days.
27 days.
And, and I know that it takes a while to really get the lay of the land. But are there a few things that based on your initial assessments and the process that you went through that you've heard or you've seen that you would think, these are the handful of areas that are going to have a lot of your attention or focus?
Right. I think based on the homework I've done so far, I think one of the things we need to do is build up trust within the institution, folks really getting to know one another and build a culture that is capable of transformative change. The direction where I would like the college to focus on is looking at our mission, the core of what we do. And North Hennepin Community College is a community college that is focused on transfer. That's our mission. That's core to mission. And so to do that well, we really need to look at our numbers and see where there are opportunities. Are there equity gaps? Do we need to work on recruitment and finding, are we providing access to everybody equally? Is our design in our courses meeting that need for equity?
Yeah.
Or does there need to be more comprehensive work looking at implicit biases in the way that we teach? But the idea is to eliminate those gaps. Now, Minnesota State has an Equity 2030 plan to eliminate those gaps, but that's 10 years from now, right? These issues are important now.
Yeah.
And so I would like to focus in 2 to 3 years on how we are doing with our students of color and that we have taken solid steps in addressing areas of need based on the data that we've looked at, and that we focus on getting students ready for transfer to our university partners. That's what we want to do well. And so I think the partnership with CETA is a perfect example of partnering with Metro State. So those students will never have to leave Brooklyn Park. They can take all their courses and earn their baccalaureate right here.
Right. And I know that North Hennepin has been broadening out the number of 2-year to 4-year opportunities that students can take on the campus. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's an area where I would like to work on making that even more accessible for students, where they can come here and take all of their courses and earn their baccalaureate without having to leave the campus. Yeah. We know transportation is an issue for students, and so if you need to travel to the other side of the metro, that may not be easy for you. There might not be an easy, direct way of doing that.
Right.
And so the more programs that we can have where you can start and finish at North Hennepin Community College and still earn your baccalaureate. So it's a 2+2 model.
Yeah.
2 years with us, you gain your associates, and then you earn your baccalaureate right here.
So what's your pitch for that prospective student that's looking at North Hennepin? How do you sell them on the school, and what is that?
So I sell them on the fact that we're going to transform your life through compassion and education. That's what we're going to do. That's my own personal mission statement.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's what we do. And so if they come to us, we will absolutely transform your life for the better by working with you and providing you access to all the resources you need to be successful and to stay in our community and make a difference here. That's
an inspiring sales pitch to join North Hennepin. I know it serves about 10,000 students.
It does.
And so we're always looking for 10,000.
I can always use more. Absolutely.
Yeah, so we're always looking for a few more. So if there's folks that listen to this and are trying to encourage a family member or friend to attend college, North Hennepin would be a great place to be.
Absolutely. www.nhcc.edu.
There you go. Anything else you'd want to touch base on? Any unexpected things once people get to know you? I mean, you've shared you're a gamer, so so you need to connect with Mayor Lundy because he's a big.
I've heard
he's big into gaming, and I think that he's always looking for somebody to connect with on that. So I'm sure that you guys will have. Plus, you both have a little bit of an IT background too,
we do.
right?
Yeah, I earned my master's in management information systems, and for a while I worked on the application side at the college, working with faculty, teaching all different types of applications for use in the classroom, and also I was teaching in the classroom. Same thing.
Yeah.
Those type of courses.
Yeah. Well, when you meet Mayor Lundy, you guys will have plenty of things to talk about. Yeah, without a doubt.
Absolutely. It is amazing to be in this community, and I have a lot of hope for what the future will bring. I know we will get past COVID, and we will tackle whatever challenges await for us on the other side.
Yeah, well, I know we at the city have appreciated. I've been here almost 5 years now, coming up in about a month, a little less than a month to be 5 years. And the North Hennepin Community College has been a great partner with us, and I so look forward to working with you and the college and the whole community to try to realize the vision that I know we both share for the community and for the college and the students of the school and the residents of the community and the surrounding communities. So I really appreciate you joining the show today, and so folks can get to know you a little bit better. But I really appreciate the partnership and look forward to working with you, Dr. Garcia.
My pleasure, and I'll be happy to come back anytime you want, Jay. Even if we want to talk sports, we can do that.
Yes, we should talk more sports. That would be great. I'll have to bring you a Twins hat for next time.
Absolutely.
So thanks again to our guest, Dr. Rolando Garcia. You can listen to the latest episodes of We Are Brooklyn Park on our YouTube channel or online at www.brooklynpark.org/podcast. Thanks so much.
Thank you.